All right, let's dive in. Today, we're cracking open two really extraordinary Buddhist texts from ancient India. Now, I know what you're thinking, 2,500 years old? But trust me, they're insights into how our minds work and what it really means to be free. Well, they're more relevant today than ever. So that's really the big question we're tackling. I mean, we're always looking for answers in the latest self-help book or podcast, right? But what if some of the best roadmaps to personal freedom were written down thousands of years ago? These texts aren't just dusty old artifacts. They are living, breathing guides to understanding ourselves. So we're looking at two incredible complementary works. On one hand, you've got the Samyutta Nikaya. You can think of that as the big philosophical blueprint for how reality works. And on the other, we have the theory Katha, which gives us these raw, personal, and frankly, startlingly modern voices of the women who actually walked this path. It's the theory and the real-world experience. Let's start with that blueprint, the Samyutta Nikaya. It basically lays out the mechanics of our own minds, why we get stuck, why we suffer, and how we can find a way out. And at its core, it suggests that our entire experience is driven by one single, incredibly powerful force. And that force is what's called craving, or tanha in the original Pali. The text describes it as this deep, primal instinct, that constant pull towards things we like, and that push away from things we don't. Think of it like a little engine, always running in the background, constantly shaping our entire experience of the world. And this is the chain reaction it kicks off. It all starts with a fundamental misunderstanding, or ignorance, of how things really are. This leads us to constantly chase experiences, all fueled by that craving we just talked about. And the inevitable result? That feeling of dissatisfaction, of suffering. So here's the crucial point. It's not the world itself that causes suffering, but our relationship to it. But here's the cool part. The Samyutta Nikaya doesn't teach these massive ideas like some dry, boring textbook. Instead, it uses these short, punchy, and often mythic stories, with the Buddha having conversations with gods, demons, and even kings. So, picture this. A divine being, a deity, appears before the Buddha and asks him this huge cosmic riddle. How did you cross the flood? And the flood here is a metaphor for the overwhelming current of everyday life and suffering. It's a question we all face, right? How do we get through it all? And this is the Buddha's cryptic reply. Think about it. If you try to just stand still in your attachments, you sink. But if you swim frantically, always grasping and struggling, you just get swept away. The answer points to a third way, a kind of middle path, being aware without all the struggle. It really makes you think, doesn't it? Of course, no epic journey is complete with a great villain. And in this story, we have Mara. He's basically the personification of temptation, delusion, and all those inner voices that keep us trapped. He's the ultimate heckler, always trying to mess with you on your path to freedom. And the Buddha's response is just perfect. It's so confident, so unshakable. And yes, you heard that right. That word Terminator is a direct translation. It's this incredibly dramatic way of showing that once you see through the illusion, the things that used to have power over you, they just don't anymore. Okay, so we've seen the big cosmic blueprint. But now we're going to get personal, really personal. We're shifting to our second text, the Therigatha, which translates to the verses of the senior nuns. And let me tell you, their voices offer a powerful, completely different perspective. I mean, this text is a huge deal. It's one of the very first collections of spiritual writing by women anywhere in the world. And it does not pull any punches. It puts their unique struggles, their personal insights, and their incredible triumphs right at the center of the story. So let's jump right into these poems of true freedom. Because they aren't abstract at all. They are raw, emotional, and powerful stories of liberation. These women took that philosophical blueprint we just talked about and put it to the test in their own lives, overcoming some very specific and often very gendered challenges. And look who's back. It's Mara again. But this time, he tailors his temptation. He shows up to a nun named Sela and hits her with this classic line. Hey, there's no escape. Just enjoy life's pleasures. Don't regret it later. It's basically a sexist taunt meant to make her doubt herself But Salah's comeback is absolutely devastating. She sees those pleasures not as some wonderful delight, but as being like swords and spears, as things that actually cause harm. She's not just rejecting the temptation, she's completely reframing it. This isn't denial, this is some seriously profound insight. And then there's this verse from the nun, Muta. It's so direct, so witty, and honestly, so incredibly relatable. She declares her freedom not just from some big spiritual idea, but from the literal physical burdens of her everyday domestic life. And the cleverness here is just brilliant. The original word she uses for humped can mean both crooked and something that makes you crooked. So she's masterfully linking the backbreaking work with the mortar and pestle to the emotional weight of her crooked or humpbacked husband. It's such a timeless way of talking about feeling trapped, and she does it with this sharp, knowing humor. It's just amazing. So what happens when we bring these two texts together? What do we find? Well, on one hand, you have this universal framework for understanding how our minds work, and on the other, you have this powerful personal proof that this path to freedom is real and it's accessible to absolutely everyone, no matter what their circumstances are. The takeaways here are truly timeless. The big challenges of craving and ignorance, they're just part of being human. And the solution isn't some complicated ritual, but an internal training of your own mind. And as these nuns show us so powerfully, liberation isn't just a theory. It's a deeply felt personal reality. And sometimes the most powerful voices come from the places you least expect. And all of this leaves us with one final question. For you, the nun Muta found her freedom from her mortar, her pestle, and her husband. So what are the mortars and pestles in our own modern lives? What are those daily burdens, those repetitive jobs, those unseen constraints that hold us back? These ancient texts suggest that with a little wisdom and awareness, we too can find our own way to be well freed.